Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of Huge Update Interviews. Huge Update Interviews, and this week we are currently joined by. Please introduce yourselves, guests.
Hello, I'm Ben Sutcliffe from No Sky Visible.
And I'm Paul Sanderson.
He's from the same place. It's going to be like drawing blood from a stone, getting a conversation out of Paul, but we'll try.
All right. And obviously, I'm always joined by my good co-host, Peter Marish. Peter Marish, please introduce yourself.
Hi guys, hope you're all well. So, I guess the first question we all want to know is, how did Nosky Visible form?
Well, it was about three years ago. I was working as an artist and curator in Sheffield, where we're living, and through that, doing that sort of thing, I got offered a residency in Bank Street, where we're based at the moment still, but I kind of fallen out of love with the whole. Oh my God! Sorry, I was on the phone call.
Falling out of love with round one.
Yeah, you can tell I'm a gamer. Yeah, nice. So sorry, we were so got offered a residency, but I wasn't into doing the art thing anymore, and I just recently started using this game maker, and the free game making software. So we put out a call if there were anyone in Sheffield that were interested in making some games on Facebook, and then Paul came down on the very first day, and a bunch of other people, and then we just got started straight away making a sort of like retro brawler called Asbo A Go-Go, and we ended up getting that in the Tramlines festival that we have here. They sort of picked it up and promoted it for us, and that's how we got together. So it was like more luck than anything else, I guess. We didn't really have any credentials in game making. It just sort of came out of nothing.
Came together. Yeah, so you kind of bumped into each other and magic happened.
Yeah, it was a little more stressful than that, but it did. It sort of came out of nothing, and it was I think it was more of a surprise to us that we sort of stuck together and carried on doing anything, because we managed to get his first game together in like 4 months, something like that. And like I say, we'd never really had any experience, and we did the we did the whole thing. I'm really proud of that first game. But on the whole, looking back, it was kind of a bit of a shambles, especially looking at the sort of stuff that we're doing now. Yeah. It was. But you can check it out. It's on Newground. It's called Asbo A Go-Go. You can play it for free.
Nice.
It's like an arcadey, sort of like Double Dragon or something like that.
That's cool. And how long is the game itself then, content-wise? Because if you made it in 4 months, how much could you get together?
We did 5 levels, I think, didn't we?
Yeah, I think it's only about 10 minutes playthrough.
Yeah, no, it's a little bit more. Yeah, it's only about 15, 20, 25 minutes of content. But we managed to get sort of 3 fighting levels, a boss level at the end, and then in between we made this crazy mecha fighting game that we managed to put in there. And it's also got 2 sort of secret hidden games in it, hasn't it? Yeah. That made another friend that came down and helped us in those early days. He made these 2 really weird games, and we put them in as secret levels.
They're almost impossible to find, though.
Yeah, I doubt anybody ever knew was there.
That's really cool. So, how big was the team then in the earlier days? Or was it always the 2 of you?
There's always been the 2 of us. I've always done design. Paul's always done the programming, but we've always worked with as large a team as we can. Back in them days, I think there were 5 of us. An artist, a sound guy, and the other guy who was making the cool little secret games. But while we were doing that, because of the place we were working in was like a gallery, sort of gallery studio space, there were always loads of people of all different interests coming and going. So there were literally like 10 to 15 people that had come in and help us on that first project. And it's still the same now. We still have that sort of like open, anyone can come in and contribute if they can.
That's cool. So do you kind of treat it like freelance, or is it more like kind of just people coming in, having a bit of a chit chat about it and how to amend, or do you kind of get your mates involved? What sort of dynamic out of those three really is it?
So it's like you say, it's whoever. I mean, we try. The whole idea with having it a more open and collaborative process is that, you know, we get an influx of interesting ideas and people who aren't necessarily into the gaming. Like, for instance, the other day I just went into the studio and they've taken on a resident physicist.
Wow.
So we got chatting about the game that we're making. Yeah, exactly. So you, like, on the floor that we share, there's also a psychiatrist and things like that. So there's a full range of not even creative practices really, but like scientific and medical practices. So, like, going back to the physicist, we're making a game that's set in space at the moment, and we are trying to do some more realistic effects. And he just, like, was really interested in helping us out and showing us all these mathematical equations that really were a bit too deep, but it was still, you know, nice that he was enthusiastic to help, you know.
Wow. So is it like an open plan, or is it kind of separate offices then, this work environment that you're in?
So we have a studio that's located on the top floor, and they're kind of just locked rooms, essentially. But there's a great, like, atmosphere. Everyone's always going into each other's space. But there is also a sort of happy area, sort of common room where everybody goes down, and that's where really we get to meet all the interested people and talk about what everybody's doing. But it's not all, like I say, it's not all offices. I think our endeavour is one of the more unusual ones in there, because normally they're not like businesses or trying to get like a product together. They're just like individuals making paintings or sculptures or stuff like that.
That's really cool. So, like, of course, the benefit you've mentioned really is that everyone kind of gets together and can help and collaborate and make a product better. Has there been any sort of friction or issues that would arise, though, from this? Say someone helped out quite a bit, would they want potential ownership of the product they've helped, or was everyone pretty relaxed, saying, "Hey, I'm glad just I could help out," sort of thing?
You get a mix. You get people who are down there for the experience, and then you get people that are down there that, like you say, might want to take some kind of ownership over it. But to be honest with you, I think it's important to give people that ownership over the product, the thing that we're working on, if they have contributed to it. So, like, I don't really mind that, and I think because we work in this sort of open way, I think it's a consequence of it, you know, that people, and we encourage that, to be honest with you. We want people to sort of take ownership of it, and because of a lot of the people we work with are technically volunteers, it's a good way of getting them invested in the project if we really let them you know, go to town on it and bring their creative ideas to it.
That sounds like a really great idea, and also some free marketing on your hands there.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it works out for everyone. Hopefully they get some, like, experience, because we do work with students as well. I work quite closely with the game course at the college in Sheffield. So we take some of their students and they come and do work experience with us. In fact, you know, we've been doing that with a group now. And that's a great way of sort of prototyping ideas and testing things to take on to the main team.
That's cool. So getting on from that, of course, the project you're working on now, as you mentioned, is the sci-fi one, and that's Vanishing Point, isn't it?
Yeah.
What's the elevator pitch then? For people that don't know anything about Vanishing Point, how would you describe it?
Oh, you said elevator pitch. So before we started talking to you, I said to Paul, "Oh, we need an elevator pitch," and Paul was extremely chatty about one. So you know, we didn't get one. But the elevator pitch essentially is that we're making a game that is set in a hard sci-fi universe. So the science fiction that we're using is hopefully within sort of reasonable grasp. We're not doing anything with aliens, anything with shooting things up in space. It's a game about exploration, but also decision making. So, like, I've been trying to compare it to sort of like a Telltale game. But we don't necessarily have that narrative built in there yet. We do intend to, but what I mean by that is that in Telltale games, basically the gameplay is you making a bunch of decisions and those having effects later down the line, and that's really what we would like the game to be about. Do you fix one system before something else blows up, or do you save this crew member and sacrifice that one? Them sort of decisions where you're making some tangible effect on the game. But that's kind of a long one for an elevator pitch.
No, that's really cool. And I'm guessing you mentioned that the physicist helped out, and how they sort of influenced it so that the actual world you're creating is believable in that sense. As you mentioned, it's not like Aliens. Are the physics in the game going to be quite realistic? And like the idea of oxygen and sound in space, are you going to go along with that side of it? Or are you allowing yourselves to have a bit of creative freedom?
To an extent. I think they're leaving some of the inconvenient scientific realities behind.
Yeah.
But
we are having sub-light speed travel, so you cannot go faster than the speed of light. So we're also having no gravity on the ship.
Mm-hmm.
We're having realistic sort of fire effects. So yeah, it's a 2D game built in a relatively simplistic engine. Maybe in hindsight, we started this game quite a while ago. We would have maybe approached it in a different way, but we're kind of locked in now. And so we are kind of limited with the sort of physics you might expect in a game, like a 3D game where you could actually replicate, the real physics of space. But we've tried to sort of like show, I don't know the best way to describe it. Like sort of fake it in a way. We have put in 0 G and things like that, but there's no actual physics built into the game, sort of thing. But we're
sort
just
of imitating it.
Yeah, we're imitating it the best we can in 2D.
Sounds good. I mean, looking at some of the screenshots and stuff, have games like FTL influenced you at all?
Well, me massively. I don't think you've ever played it, have you?
I've played it a little bit, but not.
Yeah, I love FTL. It's when that came out, I was like, oh my god, this is so cool. But at the same time, I was like, also, this would be good as a game where I wasn't shooting stuff. I want that adventure, because I don't think there is a game that takes this tone, that has an adventure set in space, but it's not about sort of, like I say, aliens and external things. It's all internal, based on the ship. And the space is sort of like a backdrop for the game, which really takes place in the ship with these characters. And that's what we wanted to develop, this sort of narrative, a narrative that passes through the entire game, that develops as you go through it, but that's not sort of slapped in your face. It's really difficult. We are struggling with how we're going to introduce that, but we'll get there.
Yeah, definitely. And what kind of obstacles is the player going to encounter? Because you're not shooting, it's more, is it dialogue based and relationships, or is it an issue with the ship?
Yeah. The ship itself needs constant sort of care. The main mechanic of the game is you and your crew just fixing the ship, and then when you run out a certain resource, you need to go and collect that resource. So that is the sort of, like, in a very simple way, the core mechanic of the game. But obviously, there's sort of a cascading effect of danger. So if you don't maintain a certain section of the ship, then before you know it, you're going to have a fire, and then you'll have to get rid of the oxygen in that room. So then you'll have a space that your players can't move through. And then if you don't take care of it, still there might be a breach in the ship, and then everything's sucked out into space. And before you know it, there's a horrific death of everybody that you've ever cared about. And that's what we want.
Killing off loved ones.
I want my players to cry.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, repeatedly.
Would you have like a mode? Sorry, go for it.
No, go on, man. Sorry.
I was going to ask, would you not, like in XCOM, the Iron Man mode, would the game influence stuff like that? Where you can't go back once they're gone, they're gone.
This is a decision that we are mulling over. I think it will be like that.
Mm.
I mean, we're in a state of development now where we can make a bunch of decisions where, like, and I think that's one way we develop is that we try to keep things as open as we can so we can make decisions after doing a lot of play testing. So I think we are going down that direction where it will be permadeath for your character. And I think that'll be the right decision. I'm a real big Dark Souls fan.
Oh,
So,
yes. I like you, sir. That's exactly the right answer.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, Dark Souls fans, they always have that instant connection. Paul's not a Dark Souls fan. Just too hard.
He needs to get on it, with the third one coming out soon.
Exactly. I keep telling him this, but he'll never pick it up.
I played a bit of the third one in public and it didn't go well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We went to play it at like a game show, and Paul horrifically died many times.
Wow, that's sort of the aim of the game, isn't it? To a degree, you're going to die so many times to eventually progress.
Yeah, and I think that sort of design philosophy has definitely crept into this. And like FTL is the same in a way. If you've played a lot of that, you do eventually get attached to these crew members that you've named and you've taken on this big epic journey, and then you kill them all off, but you start again and you go again. And I think it will have that roguelike quality to it, where you'll need to play it. You're never going to get to the end on the first go. I mean, that we definitely don't want that.
Totally.
It's not going to be.
With the dialogue in the game, because you mentioned, of course, say the player restarts, are you going to have it so it's kind of a fixed narrative, or will it be like randomly generated narrative as it goes along?
Yeah, I think it'll be situational based. So depending on the situations in the game, the players have a health bar, which it does what you would think it does, and then there's also like a psych bar, which tells this mental state of that character. So that is a way that we're going to be delivering narrative. And I don't know if we're going to necessarily be doing it through dialogue. I'm sure we'll be doing it through that. But we've also thought about the characters, having logs, like personal logs and things like that. So that's the way that the player can sort of delve into the narrative. Going back to Dark Souls, I'd rather have a narrative that is implied and something you have to search for, rather than have it slapped in your face, which sometimes I feel is games do a lot. Like here's narrative fish, and then hit you in the face with it. But it'd be better if you want narrative, you can go searching for it, that sort of thing. But I think we'll do it all. We'll have some dialogue, we'll have some logs, and we'll have some like specific triggered events that happen if you get into certain situations.
That's cool. I like that. So it gives the player the chance to kind of get involved in the game as much as they really want. They can either kind of play the game on the surface level, or they can dig in deep like you would have Dark Souls and read all the logs.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a better design approach. It's a more subtle one, and I think subtlety is something that we have. It's a subtlety that we want to go for in the game without obviously making it boring, because that's we don't want that. We want it to be really exciting, but we also don't want to be doing these big set piece things. We'd rather the player just get to these situations and then have get that story. I don't really know what I'm going on about now. Just waffling.
It makes sense. That makes sense. You mentioned about the psychological bar. I mean, I don't know if you've seen much about Darkest Dungeon, but have you looked at their sort of thing?
Yeah, what are they doing that?
Oh, Alistair, you know a lot about Darkest Dungeon because it's one of your games you've been playing.
Yeah, in Darkest Dungeon they have what's their sanity meter. It's alongside their health bar. So when an enemy attacks one of the crew, they'll not only take damage, or they may not even take any damage, but they'll get a psychological effect from it, or they could get an insanity just by looking at an object. Like they'll walk into a room, he'll search the crate, and there's something in the crate that shocks him so much that his insanity meter goes up. And when they hit full insanity, they'll actually get one or two things are going to happen. They'll either get a buff, like they've overcome the problem, and they'll be heroic, and they'll say you have now got
cool.
plus
it can
something.
be positive.
Yeah, and then what more than averagely happens is a negative, the effect has hit them so hard that they now mechanically actually will refuse certain actions. So like if they get like depression, they might not even want to attack, or if they get like self-inflicting, they might want to actually hurt themselves during combat itself. So
Right.
That sounds very similar to like the mechanic you just explained there, which is interesting because like it is a new one and it is something that people are talking a lot about. Like it's very interesting in how like developers are now talking about bringing in this like mechanic of psychology into games more.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting, and I think we've definitely talked about that.
Yeah, we talked about using the airlock and things like that.
Yeah, so that's one thing that we'd like to happen when your character gets, your psych bar gets too low, and she just becomes suicidal, and then like all of a sudden she's trying to blow the airlock, and you've got to try and stop her any way you can. And I think what's interesting about that mechanic is the loss of control. You can give the player all the control they want, but then all of a sudden, if you take it away, and then the character that's supposed to be in your control is suddenly acting in a mind of its own, that can be a really like interesting thing.
Definitely.
I'm interested. Were you saying that you can accrue these effects? Is there like a potion or something that will negate all these effects? Like in Final Fantasy, if you get like
it's a lot.
Is it like that?
It's a lot more harder to get rid of these effects. You essentially have to like bench your guy for so long, like back in the village. Okay. It's not an easy fix, and some you may not actually ever get rid of. Like
that's better. That's better. Yeah, that's good.
Like
it sounds good, that game.
Darkest Dungeon, it has been in like ever since it came. Like I saw it in 2014. Got it on early access, and the guys have been prolific and so dedicated to their fans over on their like streams and stuff. Like they take their game very seriously, and they take like they're very transparent in their like they do dev streams, and they'll like talk about every bit of the mechanics, and they straight up say like, look, we love you guys, but we're out to kill you. There's no two ways about it. This game is 100%, like if Dark Souls is 100% fair as a game to its players, Darkest Dungeon is 100% unfair to its players.
Really?
Yes.
Right.
You can have a baller team, like a team of like level 10s, and they're like dressed to the nines, and they're ready to kick some major ass. Just one encounter can wreck that team, and that's 2 weeks of hard work gone down the drain, and you're just left there in a pile of your own like sweat, and it's like, I gotta rebuild, man. I gotta rebuild.
Sweat and tears when it all goes down the drain.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that sounds good. We're gonna have to give that one a go.
And you mentioned about the idea of taking away control. It reminds me of sort of the idea of like Eternal Darkness, going back on the GameCube, where that would forcefully do things while the player was playing the game, and removing an element of control, and the player would panic. I imagine that you're going to kind of look at that sort of elements. Yeah,
it's another one that springs to mind is the epic Metal Gear Solid boss with Psycho Mantis, where you have to change controller ports, and if you don't do that, your player won't control. But yeah, look, things like that where we are putting the player in a situation where they think it's familiar, but then we're taking something away that they'll be used to having, and seeing what sort of like gameplay options that brings up, and other gameplay choices, because that, like I say, that's what we really see this game as, a game of making decisions. So if suddenly, because you've only got 3 crew members, and they are probably going to be finite. We have toyed with the idea of having like cloning in so we can get players back, but we really want to stick to that. And robots, yeah, we've played with the idea of having like eventually being able to replace some crew with robots, but we don't think we want to do that. We want to keep it like this realistic. See, we don't want to use that word realistic, but there's no other that really works. This game wants to be sort of scientific, and it wants to be set in the very near future. Like I say, I don't think in a game I've been on that adventure before, so that's what I'm hoping it's going to be.
Well, fingers crossed. It sounds like a really interesting concept. Like really, really cool. I love the idea of having less people because they're going to care more about them. Is there going to be much customization with that? Like, will the player be able to create like the faces and the hair and stuff so that their own crew are their crew, or will it be randomly generated, or will it be fixed?
Well, I think because we want to do a specific story, even though we're going to have it told in a non-linear way, I think we have decided on giving one of the linchpins of having the narrative is having these characters, these 3 characters. So they are going to be specific characters. We did toy with the idea of having random generation, but when we did speak about like how we were going to do a more subtle narrative, one of the ways was that by having these 3 definite characters that we can, like you say, there's only 3 of them, so the game hopefully it'll be quite a long game because we want this epic scope to it. We've built this large galaxy that players can explore, so we've got enough space and time to hopefully tell an interesting story with these interesting characters.
That's cool. I really like that, actually. I like the idea of kind of you get so attached to them, and each character going to have their own specific role, or will they kind of be able to do any role on the ship? Yes,
every character can do every role on the ship, but narratively speaking, they all serve a specific function.
Nice.
But yeah, they all have the same abilities on the ship. Right now, they do anyway. I don't see that changing. To be fair.
You mentioned the kind of the scope of the game. How long has it been in development so far?
Probably about 6 months in serious time. But
yeah, it started out as a project for the Rift. Like I say, we work with students, and we sort of have like an A and B team, and the B team is really full of young, really talented students, but they're just wanting. It's like their first go at having it's the first time really trying something at a more professional standard. Yeah. And that's how this game started out, as us trying to do something in the Rift. That didn't work out, but in the process of doing that, we built a 2D version of that game, and then we really liked it, and it sort of came from that.
Nice.
Yeah, and sorry, what was the original question?
I was just seeing how long it was in development for, and I guess the other one kind of ties on with that is you mentioned at the start of the interview was it Game Maker? Are you still using the same engine, or have you moved on to one that allows for a bit more flexibility?
We are still using Construct, which is similar to Game Maker.
That's awesome. I know Construct 2 actually very well. I've made games in it myself. It's really impressive actually what you've managed to kind of construct out of Construct 2, because I know how many limitations that engine puts in place at times.
It's something that actually, I mean, I don't build the game, so it's probably better for Paul to say. But for me, I find that like limitations are not necessarily bad for creativity. It kind of pushes you to come up with like interesting solutions. But yeah, Paul is an absolute genius at Construct 2.
I wouldn't go that far.
I would go that far. There's never been something I've said like, oh, let's do this, and he's just gone. Well, at first he might say, no, that can't be done. But then, like Scotty, he always pulls it out in the end.
I'd hope most of us pull it out in the end, right?
Sorry?
I'd hope most of us pull it out in the end, right?
Yeah. Well, you would hope so.
It's really impressive, because looking at the screenshots, I would never have expected that to be Construct 2.
Yeah, like I say, it's testament to Paul and what he can do with it. Also, the people that we work with on a visual level, with the artists that we work with, just some of the. I mean, Stephanie, who is currently our artist and working on Vanishing Point, she only joined us. She lives in America, so we just started chatting online because I liked her work, and then explaining what we do, and then she said, I'd like to get involved in that. And then before you know it, we've got this like fantastic artist. She's worked 3 months solid for us, and like you like to say, the game looks really good. In fact, we're not 100% happy with the way the ship is looking at the moment. We'd like a really more realistic looking, something like the International Space Station or something like that, to give it that sort of so it looks like it's something from now. But we're just having to compromise with making it an actual game space that you can play in.
Again, you said playing with limitations.
Say again, sorry.
Again, playing with the limitations, really.
Yeah, exactly. So we do intend to do a whole nother pass visually and making the ship something that feels more tangible. But we'll just have to see how that goes. I'm glad you think it looks okay, because we look at it every day, and it's one of them things that when you've looked at it and seen it that much, it kind of gets you down. Not this again.
Well, I noticed it went through quite a shift, isn't it, in the art style? Like the latest one is this kind of really intensely cool-looking pixel art. That's what you're doing at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, when I think of pixel art, I think of more like Mega Man and Mario and stuff like that. But so I would describe this sort of style as more like illustrative in a way. We're not actually working on a pixel grid and things like that. These are actual sort of like fully rendered illustrations that get animated and stuff like that. So it's not actually it's not what I would call a pixelated style, but it's sort of an illustrative one. The earlier versions of the game were done in like a pixelated style, but I think that pixel art has this sort of semantic that is specific to a certain kind of game, and I think sometimes it is kind of overused. So we felt that it didn't really fit with our game, so we wanted to change it. And also the new artist Stephanie, it's her sort of speciality, that sort of illustrative style. So it was just a no-brainer to go with that, really.
Yeah, definitely. And what are you doing in regards to sort of funding the game? Have you looked at crowdfunding at all, or getting a publisher?
Oh, we'd love a publisher.
Give me money right now.
Yeah, give us money. We're not really financing it except for like ourselves. We want to do it independently as much as possible. We'd like to do a Kickstarter or some kind of campaign like that. But in our eyes, we don't really need the money, but the Kickstarter would be more for about getting the advertisement and getting the word out there. That's almost more than half the battle we've been finding. Is just getting people interested in your product, because we know that we're going to be making we won't finish that game until we're happy with it. So we will, it'll be a good product by the time we get it to market. But will the people that, the percentage of Steam or wherever it ends up would ever buy that game, can we get it in front of those people so that they know about it? And that's like pretty much the uphill battle that we're doing now, isn't it? We're kind of confident that the game's going in the right direction, but we're sort of stepping up on that kind of stuff, doing stuff like this and getting the word out.
And so marketing wise, I've noticed that one of the key things you said is helping and getting everyone else involved, so everyone has that sort of part ownership of it. Of course, is a great marketing strategy. And you mentioned that Kickstarter will be another one. Have you gone to many conventions? Are you going to take it to conventions to kind of get the word out, or what's your kind of key strategy?
Yeah, that's the one. That trying to build up his web presence. That's a big one for us. Getting involved with the screenshots, that sort of stuff, has been a big boost. But yeah, we've been doing as many conventions, sort of like gaming festivals as possible. We're going to one on Friday to Norwich Gaming Festival, so we'll be down there, be able to play the game there.
Nice.
But we did the Leeds one. We did one in Leeds, one in Nottingham. We go to do another one in Leeds at the end of the month. So that's a strategy. Whether it'll work or not, we don't know. But we feel like we're putting this much effort into the game that we need to put, because we've seen it ourselves. We've seen people who make amazing games, right? And on the day they release that game, they'll start advertising it. And that's just like, dude, that your game's awesome, but and then I'll say like, oh, how many sold? Like, oh, we sold 6 copies. It's like this game could sell, 20,000, 30,000, but if Apple, if you're not lucky or get on the Apple Store, so if you're doing mobile games, or if you don't get like good advertising from Steam, if you go on there, then if you haven't put in the work yourself, it's not going to magically happen, I don't think.
No, I completely agree. What would be your advice then to kind of other developers out there, indie guys, maybe sort of small teams that kind of want to explore? What would be your key bit of advice to give them going forward?
What in regards to?
I guess getting their game out marketing wise, because you've obviously done, you've got a level head, you know what's going on with it. What would be your suggestion?
I would say just to go out and actually get out there. I think there's a lot of people who make games that are a little more shy. There's a lot of people that don't feel like they can go out and chat about it. And there's this big thing between with indie game developers where we all think that we're like charlatans. We don't think that we have enough, credentials to go and do it. But we're all in the same boat. We all feel that way. So I think it's like you've just got to go out and be seen. Like if you're confident in your product, then go and show it off. I think that's the number one rule. But I think then the number one rule is like make a good game, or at least try.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, you got to make, as you said, you've got to be confident in your own product to be able to go out and do it. So if you make a great game and you're happy with it, then you'll do it, won't you?
That's it. Yeah, exactly. If you're happy to stand up and go, I made this, then go out and do it, but not until you've got that.
That's fantastic. So apart from, of course, your own game that you're working very, very hard on, what else are you looking forward to in 2016?
Well, in games, go on, you can go first. I think I'm going to say. Well,
I'm quite looking forward to playing No Man's Sky.
Yeah, me too.
Same.
Nice. Do you think that might help influence your actual, your game itself? Because it's a massively open space game. No one knows what the narrative is for No Man's Sky yet. I don't know if there'll be any. But would you think you'd use any of their kind of concepts to help influence your work?
For me, that's a big no, because they're doing what, from what I can see anyway, they're going for that sort of I don't know, like high fantasy science fiction. They're going for the whole aliens and massive corporation, space mining and faster than light stuff, and it looks amazing. Don't get me wrong, I want to play that game so bad. It's just not, in a way, that's the sort of what we're reacting, not to against, but yeah, we're reacting to that. We wanted an adventure that was more grounded, and hopefully that's what is our more unique
selling
point. Yeah, exactly. That's what we're. In the trailer, there'll be a lot of that. There'll be a lot of, this is a more, realistic science fiction. But we won't say realistic, because you're being called out on that by scientists. And, when you're working with your science advisor, you have to be careful, because they will slag you off.
No, that's what you want. It's what you want, is you want to put it out, and you want to make sure that Neil deGrasse Tyson twitters about it, because then you'll be getting the hits. You'll be getting the eyeballs on you. See?
Yeah, that would be... Yeah, for sure.
And is there any kind of indie projects or individual developers that you'd like to give a shout out to at all?
Well, I don't know who the developer is on this new game that I've got my eye on, but I think it's called Salt and Sanctuary. There's this new PS4 game that looks a lot like Dark Souls.
Scar Studios.
Is that the one? Yeah, that game looked amazing. Yeah, I saw it. Sorry?
It does look pretty damn good, actually, yeah. And as a Souls fan as well, I picked up it. You played it? What's it like?
No, sorry, I'm just asking if you've played it. No, I only saw that review on the website the other day, and it looked... I think it's PS4. I think it's on the PS4. Yeah.
Yeah,
that
good.
Looks great.
It's actually really good. Like, the thing that's definitely coming out about, like, hearing, like, playing playing Assault and Sanctuary and, like, thinking, like, this is just like Dark Souls, but in 2D. You know what this reminds me of?
Yeah.
Castlevania. oh my god.
Yeah.
Like it's everyone's now dawning on that factor, but like the game totally holds up. Like it's got like it has a lot of like what Scar Studios is known for. Like the art style is there, the combat is there from Scar Studios, but the mechanics and what you know and what you like and what you want from a Dark Souls game is totally actually there. Like the customization, the like total like reliance on like management of your stats and your equipment, and like exploration is key. Like you totally want to explore every nook and cranny in the game as much as possible. Like it is a really, really good game, and it's surprising that like it's not been in that long of a development from like what I know of it either.
Yeah, it came from nowhere. I don't remember, because I usually keep quite well informed on the games that are coming out and stuff, but that just came out of nowhere. I think I might have seen an advertisement for it once, and then it were out. I thought I'd be able to get it on Steam, but I don't think I can.
They've been. I don't think it's out on Steam yet. I believe it will be coming out. They've been doing a lot of like dev blogs of it. They do a dev stream. Have been running a dev stream for like over a year now, at least on it. That I've been keeping track of. So they have been showing the development of it, and it has been like they've been talking about it for roughly about a year, maybe two most. But like.
Right.
It's come out surprisingly quick, and especially since like Scar Studios was like more or less exclusive to the 360, to see them going to PlayStation 4 is kind of like a big deal in some ways. So it's good to see that the game's not only like come out, but it's come out to a lot of applause, and it is doing quite well. So it's good to see.
What did they work on before that studio?
The first game they ever made, it was they on 360. It's like the Dishwasher franchise and Charlie Murder are what they're known for.
Yeah. I know that one. Yeah. So that's kind of in a way like, even from what I've seen visually, it looks like they've constructed it in a similar way. But yeah, it really does look like a good-looking game, even though they have wholeheartedly embraced Dark Souls in that game by the looks of it. It's I mean, that's a nice way of saying they've ripped it off. But that's fine.
And that's not a bad thing, you know. There's many of us Souls fans out there that want a bit more of an experience, you know, another Souls experience that isn't Dark Souls.
Agreed. It looks better than that other one where they tried to rip off Dark Souls. What was that called now that came out on...
Lords of the Fallen.
That's it. Oh, I played that. It was pants.
There's Deep Down as well that's coming out at some point.
Deep Down? Oh, I've heard of that. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's the Capcom one, isn't it?
You got it, yeah.
Yeah, they showed off years ago when the next-gen stuff were launching. We've not heard anything since.
Exactly. Yeah. There was a mention, like, I think it was a few months ago. It's like, and Deep Down is still in development. But that's it. But that looks quite cool. Meant to be quite brutal, like a combination of Dragon's Dogma and Dark Souls.
Yeah, that'd be good. That'd be good. Mm.
Exactly. So where can our listeners find you?
You can get us at Twitter at NoSkyVisible, and our website is
noskyvisible.co.uk.
Yeah, and you can get us on Facebook on NoSkyVisible.
Yeah,
the search.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and we're hoping to get Vanishing Point on Steam sort of within 6 months. But like I said before, we have the luxury of being able to finish this whenever we feel it is finished. So we guarantee we'll make the best game we can.
Yeah.
Will you ever do like an open beta or an alpha that people can kind of try out?
Not 100% sure. We may have. The thing is, it's kind of a game that needs a bit of time to get into. So I don't know if it'll work. We do want to get some Let's Plays, some like people playing it and doing things like that. So we're really going to try and set up something like that. But it's all new to us. We're just fumbling his way through.
Well, you're doing a grand job so far, and it's been fantastic speaking to you both.
Oh, thanks ever so much, mate.
It's really interesting, and I like I said, it's really cool seeing someone else using an engine like Construct 2, which hasn't had a lot of press, especially recently.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if I haven't heard anything about it recently at all. Are you taking it to PC eventually, or will you try and put it onto the mobile platforms, or will you try and take it to, like, the next generation consoles, if you had a chance to, I mean?
Well, the thing is, it's kind of a game that needs a bit of time to get into. So I don't know if it'll work. We do want to get some Let's Plays, some like people playing it and doing things like that. So we're really going to try and set up something like that. But it's all new to us. We're just fumbling his way through. I don't think it'd fit on mobile. I'm kind of mobile averse in a way, the design wise.
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan. I don't game mobile I don't game on my phone really. I think Paul's
Yeah, me neither.
feels the same.
Yeah.
Definitely going to stick with Construct 2. We love this engine. Like I say, Paul's really good on it, and I like designing in it because it's really, it makes sense what you're doing. And it's kind of instant. As you know, if you've worked with it before, it's really easy to set up your layouts. It's really nice to work in.
It is, yeah, it's really easy. Are you doing the Construct 2 game jam at the moment this month at all, or do you know anyone else that's participating?
No, it's we don't really do that much game jams and stuff like that. We've never been that big on that.
No, I think we did a couple to begin with. But...
Yeah,
I was just wondering because they're doing a Construct 2 jam this month. I know of.
Yeah, I think they sent me an email about that. I think I get the newsletter or something. Yeah, but no, we're super busy. Like we've got the Norwich festival, and we've been getting a whole new build ready for that. That'll be like the first time. So we've just been swept off his feet with getting that done, and hopefully have something that's stable enough to show the general public. Because when they get their hands on it, they're just going to break it. I know it.
That's what the public do, though, don't they? They will get your hands on any product and break it. That's just what they're there for.
Well, we're going to set a cordon around it and just be like, you can just look at me playing it, and then you'll be impressed.
Nice. So, Al, do you want to do the awkward outro as always?
Yeah, I can do. All right. So this has been a huge update episode 14. We've been with No Sky Vision, and we've just been talking about their recent upcoming game, hopefully in the next 6 months. Vanishing Point. There we go. So thanks a lot, guys. Obviously, you can find us at hugeupdate.squarespace.com. You can also find us on iTunes. You can leave us a review. You can also find us on Twitter at hugeupdate. And that's everything. So everybody say goodbye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
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 All right.
Bye.